Previously on X-Men. Previously on X-Men.
We're finally up and running, aren't we?
I think the time changed or something. That's all it is.
The time messed me up today.
Oh yeah,
Like it didn't really affect me yesterday, but it affected me today big time. I didn't even want to get out of bed. That's how it was today.
yeah. No, I know the feeling. It's crazy how 1 hour can make a difference.
And it's like I looked outside and I'm like, oh man, the sun's still down. You know what I mean? Because it's like at night, it's like, oh, less than on that stuff. But
Yeah.
like today was like, oh man, do I have to deal with this stuff? Besides that, how's it going, Shane?
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started today at 6:30, not because of cover price. Would you believe it? It wasn't cover price fault today. It was mine.
Oh, that's okay.
Because I was moving at a snail's pace when I was working today. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. So we're gonna do our best to try to keep this show as short as possible today, even though I doubt if that's gonna really happen because we got a lot to cover. But my boy Durs earlier just said, hey, I don't know if you misspelled this, but I think he was supposed to say dope sales surge. I was like, nope.
Yeah.
It's not an error.
Yeah.
We're gonna be talking about DOOP today.
Oh yeah.
You know a little bit about DOOP, do you? Are you familiar with DOOP?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll definitely talk about DOOP. We'll talk about DOOP. We have an amazing creator spotlight for today. I've been looking forward to doing this one for a long time. And then we'll talk about some new comic books. But before we start on all that stuff, let's say what's up to the guys in the chat. Starting with my boy Las Cruces, 1971. Buenos dias de Nuevo Mexico. And look, you got the little accent on the E too.
Yeah.
All right. And Las Cruces, it's good to see you back, man. I know you've had a rough time. Condolences to you and your family. And you're in our prayers, man. So it's so nice to see you. So, and there you are. All right. Look at that. Happy to see you. It's awesome. What is up, Nerdy Geek? How are you, my friend? I am tired. That's how it is. And we got Comic Verse. Tony! Hey, Tony! My man, Tony! I don't know why I do that with him. I just do that with him. That's just like a thing with him. I don't know.
It's a thing now.
It's a thing, you know what I'm saying? We got Phil's Treehouse. I signed all my books, so now I have a pedigree collection. That's not how pedigree collection works, Phil. It doesn't work that way, man. It takes a little bit more than that. And a pedigree collection has nothing to do with signed books. So I guess you screwed up all your books. That's it. His collection's over.
Yeah.
Damaged collection.
Or they could be super famous in 50 years.
Yeah, So, what spec her? I hardly knew her. Ha 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 ha. There goes the Avengers Joe with his jokes. Mariachi X-Men. Never knew I needed that until now. Well, this is how you know a guy's not Spanish. That was Bachata X-Men. Believe it or not, there is a difference. I'll tell you in another time. But it was fitting for today's show to put the Bachata X-Men. So,
yeah, it was good.
X-Men theme. Let's go tango version. And look at this one. He's tango. It's bachata. All right. Nice to see Allred X-Men getting some love for a minute. Unfortunately, it's not because of Allred. But yes, I am stoked about that too. Let's see. Hashtag Wizard Comics of YouTube. There you go. You know what I mean?
It started there. That'll be the first one.
That's the first one. Wizard Comics of YouTube. What is up, JSS Brooklyn? I sent him a package. I sent it to him on Saturday morning. He got it today.
Wow, that's great.
He texted me. He was like, "Thank you so much." And I was like, "You got it already?" So I'm happy you like it.
The mail knows. They know not to mess with.
Well, I sent it early in the morning. Joffrey Castro, what's going on, Joffrey? Joffrey. Sorry, man. It's like I said, it's been a long day. My head hurts and all that stuff. Right? Condolence. Did something happen? Yes. Las Cruces had a family situation, so that's why we're giving him our condolences. Right? What is going on, Christina Payne? She's in the house. That means that all is good. So they used to call me either Tony Soprano or Tony Montana at work. Never knew why. Just went with it. Actually, I don't do that because of either or. I do it for a different reason. If you know, you know. If you don't, you'll find out. What is up, Alex Lodermeyer? How you doing? Getting ready. I've been working on your sketch. That's why you haven't got your package yet. So it's starting. It looks really good. And I only listen to Gloria Stefan, Selena, and the Dinos. Los Dinos. Los Dinos. Bitty bitty bamba. And She-Hulk smashed the thumbs up. Thank you so much. You see, they know we're doing. They know what we're doing. Uh, like I said, it's been a tremendous week. I had over the weekend. I did the Leaks comic show. That was so much fun, Shane.
Yes, I saw a lot of your videos. It looked like a blast.
We were having a blast. You know, those of us that were at attendance, I was with Lawrence and Mighty Comics Collectible. We were hanging out for a little bit. Then Ralph from Bit and Apple TV, he was there as well. Good friend of mine from the channel. He also has a YouTube channel there. So if you want to hit him up, go check out Bit and Apple TV. They do a show. I think they do their show on Mondays too. But go check that out. They do a lot of indie stuff, so that's really great. And there you go. The package is absolute top shelf. Excellent Groot artwork. Oh yeah, I always forget about that. For encapsulating. Yep. Thank you so much, JSA Brooklyn.
What was your friend's name that did the recording for you again?
His name is Ralph.
Right, Ralph. Yeah, he did such a great job. If anybody,
that's Bit in Apple TV. Yeah, that's Bit in Apple TV. That's who he represents. At any time during this stream, I may pass out. It's okay.
I'm ready to. I'll take over.
If that happens, you just take over. You put me on the side. I might be pronounced dead on the spot, but that's okay.
That'll be not that part, but it would be fun for everybody to watch me try to do any of this.
Well, I've seen streams where people fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like, and then we're doing these live hangouts, and we're just like, is he okay? Like, and we're trying to figure out if he's sleeping or dead. Thankfully, in every single occasion that we're sleeping, so
yeah.
I'm so out of it, man. It's not even funny. All right, but the show must go on. I do this for my 10K subscribers, and thank you so much. And speaking of 10K subscribers, I think I let it out of the bag already. People already know, right? They know the news. We got a giveaway coming up soon.
Yeah.
So I picked up at the show an Omega Men 3. Look at that. Nice, beautiful copy of the book. We're going to be giving that book up. This book is going to be going out to one of you guys. Details will be coming up soon. I haven't fully hashed it out, but we are going to do a 10K subscriber giveaway show in which this is going to be given out in that show, as well as some other fun stuff that we'll probably throw in there and do in the show. So that's going to happen. And to answer your question, did I get a chance to meet Vincent D'Onofrio? The answer is no. He was doing the show on Sunday only, so therefore I didn't go on Sunday. I was contemplating going on Sunday, but the question was really more on the lines of, can I do an interview? And it was like, we're not sure. So if the answer was I'm not sure, the answer to me was I'm not going.
Yeah.
So but it was definitely a great show. And if you look online, you can see some of the imagery, the images and videos from the Vincent D'Onofrio. He looks good, man.
Yeah.
Kingpin looks nice and lean.
When you were there, you could see him in the background when you were talking at one point. And I was like, wow, he looks really good.
Well, that wasn't him. I wasn't there. I wasn't present for Vincent D'Onofrio. That was the next day. So.
Oh.
Yeah, so but he looks good, man. He really does look good from what I saw in the images. Right. And yeah, Comic had a phone interview with Post Food today, completed 30-minute job interview in 15 minutes. Lady said that that's all I need to hear, and I'll be hearing from someone in the hiring department. Well, best of luck to you, Tony. Congrats. And yeah, job interview is always a pain. You never know what you're gonna get. Like I so don't miss that. All right. Let's talk trending. Let's get to the show because, like I said, I want to finish as fast as I possibly can so I can sit down and fall asleep and watch Raw. So it's time to talk a little bit about the Comic Heat Index, and we're going to see what's top trending comic books this week, starting right now. This week's top trending comic books for the second week of March 2025. We got some surprises. We got some great returns. And we got some doom. All right. What's your thoughts looking at the 4 images already?
I'm curious about the first one because I love Berserker. I thought it was a really cool story. We knew that this Doom cover was going to be there. And then Jeff has to make an appearance.
Every so often, right? Jeff has to just keeps coming up.
And then X-Force we'll get into.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that one. I'm just going to give you guys a heads up. I'm going to be a little light on the chat. I'll definitely come back to you guys during like break moments and things like that. But like I said, it's to kind of speed up the process a little bit. So you guys could talk all you want in the chat. I'm fine with that, and I love it. And I'm definitely going to address most of the things that are there. But we're going to try to be as quick as possible with the trending list as well as the rest of the list because we do have a lot to cover. And I want to give you guys all the love I possibly can. But like I said, I really am dealing with a massive headache right now. So I want to be over as quickly as possible. So let's get things started. And we are going to start up with number 10 in our list. And that is Fantastic Four 28, the Peach Momoko Marvel Rivals variant. This book came out in 2025 from Marvel Comics. Its last recorded sale was $8 near mint. Fair market value of this book is $8. There are 9.8s going for $64. This showed up at the trending list for cover price at number 10. The sales volume of this book is at 102%. The hype level is low. This book just creeped its way right back into the list.
Yeah, and I think there's just a little bit more attention with the new Rivals book coming out, as well as It's Jeff. They're collecting another volume of it that is in previews right now, so that could be why.
Yeah, at its height, this book was $20, $25, $30.
Yeah.
Now it's going for $8. So it's definitely dipped. But look at that sales volume. 102%. It's what really brought this back into this list. So, but I love seeing Jeff. So yeah. I'm happy to see Jeff back.
And we're going to see lots more of them in the coming weeks as well.
Yep. Okay. Is that a prediction or a spoiler?
A little bit of both, probably.
Yeah. At number 9, Berserker, number 1. This book came out in 2021 from Boom Studio. The last recorded sale of this book was $70. But look at the fair market value. $4, $70 at 9.8. Trending list, this was number 1 on cover price only. So it didn't make it to Key Collector and didn't make it to CBSI because the news came out over the weekend after Key Collector and CBSI. So it'll probably be on their list next week. The sales volume of this book is at 47%. The hype level is medium. All right. Tell me a little bit about your love for Berserker.
Well, I just picked it up because it was an independent and I thought, well, I'll give it a chance. I knew Keanu was having a hand in writing it. I flipped through it and I'm like, oh, this could be good because the character looks just like him. And I thought it was a really cool take on that whole kind of immortal type of thing, and just, you know, someone that's beaten down so far they don't know anything but violence pretty much.
Yeah. The Berserker comic is the comic book that I personally did not get into. Even though I love the art of Ron Gardner, I think he's one of the best. He's such an underrated artist out there, but he's so good. His run on Spider-Man, I love. However, what brings this book into this list, and I guarantee you'll be on Key Collector and CBSI next week, is they announced a director attached to a movie project for Berserker. So this is something that's been in the works for a very long time, and finally it's coming to fruition.
That'll be cool. And the one shots they always did, there's just this story, there's so many to tell because they just kind of follow them through time. So yeah, that's really neat. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, now this book was it had a high print run, so the cost of this book is probably not going to go too high. However, you might want to be on the lookout for some of the variants. There's some variants that are really pricey, so check out those variants if you're interested in getting, you know, Berserker books at high quality or high, you know, market value. Those are the ones you really want to look after. This one is just a standard one, and it was printed highly. Going into number 8, Impact Winter #1. This came out in 2022 for Image Comics. Last recorded sale was $20. Fair market value of this book is at $29 near mint. There are no recorded sales for slabs, therefore we don't have any. The trending list is number 8 in Key Collector, number 7 in CBSI, and number 2 in Cover Price. Sales volume is at 32%. The hype level is at a medium. So, Shane, we talked about this book several weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, in fact. It's kind of like a story. It's a vampire story, and the sun doesn't come up. It's kind of like almost like a 30 Days of Night type of story. But what's bringing this book back into this list after a long hiatus, to be honest with you, has everything to do with the fact that now it's been optioned. And there's words about being optioned. It does have an audio book, so if you ever wanted to listen to Impact Winter, it does exist, and you could actually listen to the story of Impact Winter.
Yeah, this one still don't know a whole lot about it. I haven't seen it since we last talked about it, and it's one of those ones, you know, take it with a grain of salt. We all know that just because they've done some kind of deal doesn't mean anything's going to happen yet.
Yeah. What's really good to know about this book is that this is the only one. There's no variants. There's no other copies. This is also a one shot. So you one and done, because the idea about it was supposed to be an audio book. So now that they have an option news for this, I could see this actually happening. This one I could see happening because it already has an audio book. So it has some following. People have listened to the audio. So why not? All right, moving on to number 7, X-Force 116. This book came out way back in 2001 from Marvel Comics. The last recorded sale of this book was $22. Last recorded sale of this book was $22. Fair market value is also $22. 9.8 is going for about $135. This came out at number 3 in Key Collector, number 3 in CBSI. It didn't make Cover Price top 10. It made its top 20. The sales volume of this book is at 45%. The hype level is at a medium. Before we even talk about the hype behind the book, let's talk a little bit about this book in general. I personally love X-Force, which eventually become Ecstatic. Talk to me about how you feel about this book.
So when all this started up, I checked, and X-Force is one of those volumes, and this one in particular, that I don't have. I believe I have the Ecstatic ones. I remember seeing that in my collection, but these I don't believe I have any of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with this book, X-Force, Marvel decided to take things to a different route. This is around the same time period that they started doing the new X-Men, things like that. And with X-Force, this is not this is not the X-Force from um this is not the same X-Force like Cable's X-Force or the X-Force that has Wolverine and Deadpool. This is a very, very different X-Force. In fact, I don't even know where they fit in the Marvel universe. It almost feels like it's an Elseworld story, the way it is. But this is kind of, it was ahead of its time. It's very much like The Boys in this, in a way, and in a weird way. It's also like Survivor, because it's set in this reality-based world. So this team of X-Force members, they're reality TV stars. That's how they're designed to be. And another thing about them, it's also kind of like a Squid Game thing too.
Yeah.
They die. Like, everybody you see in this cover, with the exception of a few, die. And the way Peter Milligan and Mike Aldrich did it is that you never know who's going to go out. And it's absolutely right. As you read the book, people die. And you're like, wait a minute. Isn't that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can tell you firsthand, looking at that cover, all of the people that died. I won't say it because I want people to go back to it because it's a really fun story. Now let's go talk of reason why it's here, because it's not about that story.
No.
That's not why this book is here.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why it's here?
Yes, I know exactly why. This is a first appearance of a character, and in a leaked picture that may or may not be AI generated or fake. In half of the picture, off on one side, there is this character, DOOP.
DOOP. Yes.
And
DOOP.
that has caused all of this DOOP talk, and this is his first appearance in this book.
Yeah, so DOOP he looks like Slimer from the Ghostbusters. The only real difference is on there's an X. It's an X-Men logo on his stomach. No one really knows what DOOP is. Like they think he's an alien, but what he really is, that's why this book is so outrageous. What DOOP really is, he's a cameraman for this X team. So he goes off into stories, he goes off into the whatever the mission is, and he's recording it with a camera. So you see this DOOP character. He doesn't speak either, by the way. Doesn't say a word. He just with a camera just recording it. You know what I mean? So I personally love DOOP. I think he's hilarious. Go check out, there is a limited series of Wolverine and DOOP. They do have a limited series, and it is so ridiculous.
Do you know who he would pair really well with, Izzy?
I know, DOOP and Jeff.
DOOP and Jeff. I mean, it's a match made in heaven.
I'm almost certain with this little hype, we're going to see DOOP in Marvel Rivals somehow.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think he's fitting for it. He's one of those. He was always the star of X-Force, even though and by the way, he doesn't die.
It'd be interesting to see if this book stays with the hype level. If it turns out this image was just generated by some fan or something.
Yeah, so we'll never know until the movies come out. Right, because that's where this leak is from. This is from concept art. Well, concept with quotations. Concept art for the next Avengers movies. There is some validity behind it, but nothing has been made official. So all it is leaked footage that Marvel may have allowed to be leaked, or it's just somehow happened.
Yeah, and it's very Secret Wars 2015 looking as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So go check it out. DOOP makes the list. I never thought I would have saw the day DOOP makes this list.
No, and I have other X-Men books with him in it because I was familiar with the character, but I just didn't know that I didn't have his first appearance. So this will have to be a run I'll go back and get.
I have this. It's a fun run. Like they're dollar bin books at the most, you know. So but it's definitely a fun run. It's really good storytelling too. So go check it out if you haven't. Go check out X Force 116. Our next book, Space Ghost Johnny Quest, Space Quest #1. This is the Ashcan edition. Came out in 2025 for Dynamite. $17 near mint. Last recorded sale. The fair market value is $28 near mint. No recorded slabs as of yet. It was on the cover price trending list at number 5. Sales volumes at 53%. Meaning the hype level, medium. The hype level is at medium. And it's Mark Spears being Mark. I thought I wasn't going to see Mark Spears this week, but he found his way into this list.
Yeah, and I think that's what the hype about. This book has been sitting in my comic shop for at least whenever it came out. I don't know when it, like I've seen it. I think it was last week. It's still sitting there. Ashcans to me are, you know, I have a few, but I don't actively seek them out. If I like what it looks like, I'll pick it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it is an Ashcan. It's supposed to be, you know, exclusive Ashcan. So people love Mark Spears. There's nothing else you can say about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, move on to number 5. Amazing Spider-Man 129, 1973 from Marvel Comics. Last recorded sale was $1,600 at a very fine. That was a raw. The fair market value of this book is at $875 for a very good grade, while 8.0s goes for $1,857. On the trending list, it came in number 5 for CBSI. The sales volume is at 77%, which is very impressive for a book of this size magnitude. Hype level is a high because Punisher's on his way to Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, I've only watched the first 10 minutes or so of the first episode, so I haven't seen everything yet, but I love John Berthal's portrayal of the character. And this is an obvious classic book. Like if you can, you know, save up your pennies to get it, it's just going to keep trending up over time.
Yeah, it's a book that's never going to drop its value, I think. Punisher is always popular. You know, it's Amazing Spider-Man as well. So you kind of have a double dose of that as well in this book. So yeah, I'm with you on it. If you could get the money for it, it's a good book to have in your collection.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones that if you are, you know, an ASM fan and you're going to buy it eventually, it's one that you'd buy sooner rather than later. I bit the bullet. I bought it during the pandemic. I am not going to get my money back out of it, but I don't plan on ever selling it. So
there you go. So there you have it. Number 5, Amazing Spider-Man number 129, the first appearance of Punisher and the Jackal. All right, let's take a look at number 4. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man 1977, Marvel Comics. Wait, I said Peter Parker 1970. Well, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 9. This book came out in 1977 from Marvel Comics. $107 at 9.6 was the last recorded sale. The fair market value of this book is at $27 at a fine, while 9.6 goes for about $119. This was on the trending list number 6 for Key Collector, number 8 for CBSI, and number 9 for cover price. Sales volume of this book is at 48%. The hype level is at a medium. Woo! White Tiger is another character that we saw a glimpse of in Daredevil. Hasn't been fully revealed just yet, unless it's in episode 2, which I have not yet seen.
Yeah, so once this kind of goes past, and I did watch it far enough to see the little, it's like a security cam footage. It's almost like the end of, I think, Wonder Woman, where they showed all of the little security cameras of the other Justice League members. I can't remember. It was like a little teaser trailer thing. And it's kind of like that. You kind of see them, but you don't really know what's going on. If it goes beyond that and actually they're a character and they're interact with Daredevil in that, we're going to see this book again.
Yeah. White Tiger is such a cool character. Now, this is the first comic book appearance of White Tiger. He did appear in a magazine style, and it's a co-creation of George Perez, because White Tiger is a Puerto Rican superhero. In fact, it was the first Puerto Rican superhero in the Marvel Comics. So that's why George Perez had a hand in it, because George Perez was a Puerto Rican from the Bronx, just like the guy you're looking at right now. So I'm really excited. I have my copy of this book. I love it. I have a graded copy. Great book. Good
Oh,
book.
nice. What is your grade of it?
That's a good question. I don't even remember.
I have this one as well. I have the whole run of this, so I
Yeah.
was looking at this the other day.
Yeah. I cannot tell you right now because I completely forgot.
That's okay. It's allowed.
All right, let's go to number 3. Daredevil 131, 1976 from Marvel Comics. Its last recorded sale was $95. Very good. Fair market value of this book is at $126 fine, while 9.2s go for $524. On the trendy list, this is number 2 for Key Collector, number 4 for CBSI. Did not make it to cover price. The sales volume of this book is at 46%. The hype level is a high. This is here because of, again, for Daredevil Born Again. However, you did see that first 10 minutes of the first episode. And what are your thoughts? Sorry, guys. I'm not going to talk about the actual spoiler, but what are your thoughts on Bullseye?
I thought it was good. I have questions, but because I've only watched 10 minutes, I'm I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they do it, because really all we've seen is the one portrayal in really the one in the Daredevil movie. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm very hopeful.
The costume was pretty accurate. It wasn't exactly because it is kind of silly having a bullseye in your forehead
Yeah.
the way it looks, but it's pretty accurate to what the comic book version looks like. I really like the character and how they did it. And it's the same character from the Daredevil Netflix series that came back, and so we'll probably see more of him later in the series. Really good stuff. Good fight scene. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look at number 2, and that is Secret Wars number 2. This came out in 2015 for Marvel Comics. $30 near mint. This is the last recorded sales. Fair market value of this book is at $22 near mint. 9.8 is going for about $101. This came in number 1 in Key Collector, number 2 in CBSI, and number 3 in cover price. The sales volume of this book is at 52%. The hype level is high. And just like we talked about DOOP earlier, this book is here for the same reason as well. However, I do believe that this book's hype is more than the DOOP hype.
Yeah, like it's pretty crazy. This is and there's a ton of these ones out there as well. I bought it off the shelf and didn't really think anything of it after I read it, really.
Yeah. This is the first appearance of God Emperor Doom. Keep your eyes posted for a version cover of this book that actually has Doom in the cover in the background. That book is creeping its way up into the sales charts, but not a lot of people know about its existence. So this one's the regular, the standard edition, the cover A edition of the book. But go check that one out. It's almost certain we're going to be seeing that book very soon in that list because it has Doom in the cover. So great book. This is a good story. I'm happy it's not that other one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But go check out Secret Wars number 2. And for number 1, for the second week in a row, Red Hulk number 1, the PX exclusive variant. This book came out in 2025 from Marvel Comics. Last recorded sales was $70. That's an increase from last week. Fair market value is at $73 near mint. 9.8s go for $173. This was on the trending list. Key Collector number 10, but CBSI and cover price. Well, CBSI put it at number 1. Cover price put it at number 4. What put it into the number 1 status here is the sales volume of 161%, and the hype level is at a high.
It's got everything, Izzy. It's a classic, awesome looking cover. It's got Doom on it, which, is hot right now. Mm-hmm. And it's a limited run variant. So there's a lot going for this.
Absolutely. I think this is one of those covers that when you see it, you're like, wow, it's very creative. And they did, Joshua Casaria did such a phenomenal job of making it work, because in some weird way, should it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? and he somehow managed to make it work. It is such a good looking cover. It's such a great cover. I'm happy that's in the number one list again. Will it be in the number one list to next week? Who's to say? So good stuff there. Well, there you have it, guys. What do you think of the ranking system? What do you think about the books? Do you have any of these books? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you check in next week for the next list, because who knows if Doom returns. I'm sure Doom will return.
Yep,
Right?
there'll be at least one Doom book in the list.
There'll be at least one, right? So there you have it, guys. Yeah, there we go. You see, I'm thinking. All right, let's go back to the chat here. I saw people coming in, and like I said before, I'm trying to be as quickly as possible because I'm not really up for it today, but I want to make sure I'm there for you guys here. So just like the Itchy just wants to get through things so he can enjoy his meal and fall asleep. Dude, I don't even know how hungry. I'm not even hungry today. I think I'm gonna fall asleep today. You know? So TM Nerdy, what's going on? Look, hey, Izzy. That's what I'm talking about. Give me some love, man. Kingdom of Nerds, what's going on? How you doing? Izzy didn't notice that he was greeted first. Oh, I noticed. I always notice. I'm just too out of it to identify it. All right, we got Tape Prime in the house. What's up, my man? All right, let's see. GGC 9.6 sold for just under $5,000. We might talk about that when we get to the chart boxers next month. Who knows? All right, let's see what else we got here. All hail God Emperor Doom. Good stuff. Okay, so that's one down. It's time to talk a little bit about 30, 60, 90. So we're going to be looking at the books that were hot a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It's time for 30, 60, 90. There we are. It's 30, 60, 90. This is the moment. This is the part of the show where we look back at the books that were in the cover price number one spot 30 days ago, 60 days ago, and 90 days ago. We see here 4 very different books, each representing a different era in comics. Tell me what your thoughts on what you see right now.
It's very interesting. I mean, and we've talked about these books before, but that's kind of the point of this. And I just love seeing more attention on Spawn. I just think it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. We'll get to Spawn momentarily, but first let's get to that Fantastic Four cover. And that's Fantastic Four 209 that came out in 1979 from Marvel Comics. During its week, it was the number one book on February 10th for cover price, and it sold for $279.09.8. The weekly unit sale was 82. Raws were going for $17 fine, while gradeds were going for $144 at a 9.6. As of today, the last recorded sale that I saw was $10 at a no grade. 41 units was sold in the 30-day period. The Raws did go up $1 to $18, and the graded copies remained pretty much the same. They didn't change at all. However, the highest known value of this book was $360 at a 9.8, and that happened in January 13th of 2025 of this year. Currently, there's 330 copies in the census.
Yeah,
Herbie, man.
Yeah, that surprises me that there's so few, but realistically, I mean, we both know this book was probably in the dollar bins before that, or very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's not that big of a surprise, but like considering the amount of numbers we talked during the monthly show, it is a surprise that Fantastic Four, they wouldn't have at least a couple thousand of those in the census.
It's a book that it's the first appearance of H.E.R.B.I. Let's start there. First appearance of H.E.R.B.I, who made his appearance in the movie, And it's also the first John Byrne Fantastic Four, which there is some importance to that as well. Fantastic Four throughout the years, they're known as Marvel's first family, but in 1979, they were not treated like Marvel's first family.
No.
You have books like X-Men that were hot. You had Spider-Man that was always hot, and some other books here and there. So Fantastic Four kind of like fell on the curbside. And John Byrne comes in and he has an amazing run, but this is his first book, and it's not like today where we get to find out, hey, this writer's going to be doing this book now. Back then it was like, oh, look, he's doing this now.
Yeah.
So it takes time before a book gets hot. Not to say that it ever got hot. I wasn't around to know that for sure. I was too young at the time to know how hot this book got, and probably didn't. But it's a great run. It's an amazing run. So I'm happy that it's getting some love, even though the love is for Herbie. But I say I love Jeff. I say I like DOOP. Why not throw in Herbie to the mix?
Well, you know what? They can all be in the same comic together.
It's gonna be like a Three's Company show. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All together, something like that. We could have fun with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the book that was hot 60 days ago. That was Magic #1. This is the Marvel Rivals variant. This book came out in 2025 from Marvel Comics. When it came out, January 13th is when it actually was #1, and the book was going for $40 near mint. That was the top weekly sale. Weekly units were 43. The raws were $33 near mint. There were no graded copies at the time because it was a brand new book. As of today, the book last sold for $45, so went up $5. Weekly units sold, it was at 134 during the 60-day period. The book has increased in value, so it's $36 near mint. And the first level of graded copies are going for approximately $91, 9.8. However, the highest known value of this book was $120 and a 9.8 that sold on January 30th, 2023. As of today, as of this recording, there's only 14 in the census. Trust me, that number is going to change soon.
Look at those dates. So someone definitely paid a premium to get that graded, because if the 13th it came out, they sold on the 20th.
Yeah.
Or 30th. That's pretty fast.
Yeah, that's probably because of retailers were promising it already. So
yeah, I did a check-in at my shop about the latest wave of Rivals covers, and really these first kind of batch of them are still the ones that are holding the most value. But the other ones, the Loki one has gone up. It's selling for 15 or 20 bucks Canadian right now.
Really? Wow, I didn't notice that. I passed on it. I'm at that point with the Marvel Rivals books that I'm like, let someone else enjoy it. And that's how I feel about it. I'll get a Jeff cover because I'm a Jeff fan. But as far as these Rivals covers, somebody wants them, let them be the ones to have it. I'm okay without them. That's me caring. All right. Let's take a look at a book that was hot 90 days ago. And technically, it's still hot today. And that's Spawn #1 that came out in 1992 for Image Comics. On December 9th, this book was #1 on cover price. It had a top weekly sale of $169 at a 9.8. During that week, 110 copies were sold. As of that time, the book was $21 near mint, and 9.8s were going for $150 to $5. As of today, the last recorded sales was $20 near mint, and there's been 435 units sold since 90 days ago. And the raws have gone up $3 to $24 near mint. However, the 9.8 has dropped to $125. So that's kind of odd when you look at it sometimes. The highest known value of this book is at $9,995, and that is a CGC 9.9 that sold December 1st, 2021. There's a lot of copies in the census, 35,315 to be precise, and like we said before, and growing.
Yeah, and we just talked about this in the Creator Spotlight from last week, and It would be funny. Just next time you can just put in for the census, just put a lot.
or just put like an infinity symbol.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, this book constantly gets sent out to the census.
yeah.
People love their copies now. Granted, it's how many millions were sold?
I know. And
So
what was it? It's like 300 a month at least are getting graded.
yeah, most likely.
There's
So
probably one guy at CGC, and all he does is look at Spawn books.
we got the Spawn specialist here.
Yeah,
But it is cool seeing Spawn. You know, there's a lot of love for Spawn, a lot of love for Todd McFarlane. So why not? You know, I'm
Yep.
sure this book will be number one again someday.
Again, check your list for that strange, not miscolored variant that is not very common.
Mhm.
Could be in your
Yeah.
collection right now.
Yeah, that one's worth a pretty penny. All right, so there you have it. Those are your books for this week. Shane, what's your overall thoughts?
I'm very curious to see what happens with the Rivals books if the trend's up with the newer ones just a little bit slower, and especially with the Rivals book coming out, we might see even those ones that just came out spike up a little bit. But I think these ones will just keep holding for now.
Yep. Yeah, they probably will. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching 306090. Really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on these books are. And until next time. And with that said, the chat's been a little quiet. They're like, oh, Izzy's not talking back to the chat. I am talking to the chat. It's just, can we do it during these break times? Because I want to move as quickly as possible. I'm really out of it, man. I don't even know. Like I'm feeling my head right now about to explode. That's how I feel right now. So all right, let's remove that one. We did our poll for last week, and I asked a question. Let me see if I could find the poll again so I could refresh my memory on what it was exactly that I asked. Let's see here. Let's go to the channel. And the question was, iconic comic book writers. These legends have shaped the stories we know and love, but who stands on top? Your choices were Alan Moore, Brian Michael Bendis, Chris Claremont, and Mark Waid. And coming with 1%, one vote. That's what that was. One vote. Brian Michael Bendis. I wonder why. It's like give Brian Michael Bendis a little more love. You know what I'm saying? I know in comparison to the other guys that were on the list, maybe it was a little unfair, but he did write a lot of good stories. At 8% was Mark Waid, another guy that probably deserves a little more love than that. 31% of the votes was Alan Moore. That wasn't too much of a surprise. And I know a lot of people voted for Alan Moore because they were afraid that he might curse them. So
I do remember seeing that.
Yeah. And and with 60% in the majority of the votes came in Chris Claremont. So Chris Claremont ended up winning the poll of 77 votes. That to me was astounding. I was a little shocked by it, but it just goes to show you how many people love the X-Men run, because when you think of the X-Men, you got to think of Chris Claremont.
Yeah, it's 100%.
All right. So let's go through this and let's do Creator Spotlight on Chris Claremont. But before we do that, I have to find the video. See what I'm talking about? Anyway, it's time for Creator Spotlight. Creator Spotlight, where we take a look at different creators in the industry. Sometimes we look at writers, sometimes we look at artists, sometimes we even divert and talk about little, events that came up with like DC versus Marvel, and we're going to be doing another one Soon we will be doing another one soon. We're not going to tell you exactly which one is it, but I think you're going to like that one when it comes out. We're going to be doing Chris Claremont today. Now, Chris Claremont is notorious for, pretty much being one of the major, heads behind the X-Men. When you think of the X-Men, Chris Claremont should be the name that comes on the top of that list, even more so than Stan Lee. What's your take on Chris Claremont before we go into the bio?
Yeah, I mean, I've got lots to say about Chris Claremont, but I guess to start it off, like, this is one of those formative times when I was reading comic books, like at the very beginning. Like, I was reading this as it was coming out, this run of X-Men, and I loved it. I just thought the stories were great. Everything they say about his character development is spot on. He was always putting, it didn't seem to matter to him. He was way before all the diversity talk. He was already including, strong female characters, characters from different backgrounds. That was always his thing, and there was no agenda for him with it. It was just great stories. So I was drawn to that. I loved it. I loved that run.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chris Claremont, what he did for the women characters was amazing, and how he wrote them was really, really good. Being a man himself, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people say, well, only a woman could really write a woman. I'm not saying he knew how to write women. What I'm saying is that he respected them in his storytelling. They weren't just damsels in distress. They were characters that were fleshed out. We're looking at 4 of them right now in this image here that he created, that he had a hand in creating. And he was really big on the teenagers as well. So we'll talk a little bit about his teenage characters. And we'll look at some of the books that a lot of people don't even know or realize he did at one time. And yes, we will go over some X-Men books as well.
No X-Men in this.
Not a single X-Men book, right? But what I will tell you is I cannot do them all. It'll be unfair. And on a day like today, where I really, really want to finish as fast as I possibly can, I spent a long time working on this list here, making sure which books made the most sense. So I apologize well in advance if I did not get to the book that you wanted to see. So I did wanted to get books that felt like they were significant to him more than other things. So you probably won't see, like Jim Lee's X-Men or something like that. But there will be one there. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, it's about Chris Claremont and what he's done. So let's go ahead and do the biography. All right. Chris Claremont is one of the most influential writers in comic book history, best known for his groundbreaking 16-year run on Uncanny X-Men from 1975 to 1991. His storytelling transformed the X-Men from an underperforming title into Marvel's top-selling series, thanks to rich character development, complex theme, and strong female leads. Claremont co-created fan-favorite characters like Rogue, Gambit, Psylocke, Kitty Pryde, and Jubilee. He delivered classic stories like the Dark Phoenix Saga and Days of Future Past alongside legendary artist John Byrne. Right. He also collaborated with other great talents, including John Romita Jr., Mark Silvestri, and Paul Smith. His work on X-Men #1 in 1991 with Jim Lee set a Guinness World Record for comic book sales, cementing his legacy in comics. I think his legacy was cemented long before that. Yeah. Beyond Marvel, Claremont has written novels and had a brief stint at DC Comics before returning to write more X-Men stories at Marvel. If you want to learn more about Chris Claremont, just visit his website, chrisclaremont.com. He also has Instagram, which is Chris Clear Mountain. So go check that out if you ever get a chance to. All right, let's take a look at his first work. A lot of people didn't know that one.
I didn't.
Yeah, the very first thing that Chris Claremont ever was a part of was in X-Men 59 that came out in 1969 for Marvel Comics. High sale of this book was at $36,000 and a 9.8, and that was in August of 2022.
Oh,
Last
wow.
Yeah, the last sale of this book was $40 at no grade, and that was on March 8th. Currently, the raws are going for $49 for very good, while 9.4s are going for $6.99 on average. On the census, there's currently 820 comics. Now, what makes this book interesting is that this is Chris Claremont's first unofficial work in comics. What that means is that he was a ghost plotter. A ghost plotter is a person that assists in creating the story, but they themselves do not get credit. The person that gets credit is the proper writer. So they might have a hand in like proofreading or some level of editing or something like that. And it is interesting to note that the book that started it all for him was the book that he would become famous for.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
And they bring him in as like essentially an intern and say, yeah, we need you to polish this up, kid.
Well, yeah, pretty much. And, during that time, and I've had conversations with Chris before. He would say, I was a gopher. Go for this, go for that, go for that. So during this time, he was at the Marvel Studios and he would help out in any way he can. X-Men 59 was his first real hand touching a comic book and being part of a comic book process, even though he himself didn't get credit for it. So
very cool. That's a good one.
All right, let's take a look at our next book. That's Incredible Hulk 148. This book came out in 1972 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $264 and 9.4, and that was in August of 2022. The last sale of this book was $6 at a no grade. The raws are going for $9, very good, while graded copies you could find at $129 and 9.4. There's currently 140 comics in the census, and this is the first credited work as a plotting assistant for Chris Claremont. So if you look at the credits of this book, there is a nod to Chris Claremont. It's kind of cheeky, but this is known as his first credited work. Even though he himself is not really writing, he's also serving as a plotting assistant.
I love it. I just think it's awesome, and those would be good questions to ask him, right? Like what exactly like did he do on this one, and even the other one, to find out like maybe there's a panel that he wrote or some part of it that he wrote, or maybe he just made sure their pencils were sharp. Who knows?
Who's to say? Only he knows now, I guess. Yeah. All right, so there you have it. Our next book here is Daredevil 102. This book came out in 1973 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book's at $264 and 9.4. That was also in August of 2022. Last sale of this book was $6 at no grade, and the raws goes for $9, very good, while graded copies go for $129 and 9.4. There's currently 171 comics in the census, and this is the first credited work for Chris Claremont, and he is noted as the writer.
Again, I say this every week. I'll be looking for this book on Wednesday. Like, it just amazes me that for the first credited author work from someone that has such a history, that you could get it for $20.
It is interesting that it's Daredevil that gets his first writing stint, and he's doing it against Stiltman, out of all people. Daredevil versus Stiltman. Yeah. Oh yeah, Black Widow's just there too.
Yeah.
So cool stuff.
I love it.
All right. Here's a really good one, and this is Tales of the Zombie #2. This book came out in 1973. This is not a traditional comic. This is actually a magazine format, and it's a Marvel company called Curtis Magazine. So Marvel, back in the 70s, they would do these horror magazines as well. And you could see Marvel, it was just a sister company, not a sister company, it was an imprint of Marvel. And he did work on this book. The high sale of this book is at $8.50 at a 9.8, and that was in November of 2018. Last sale of this book was $13 at a fine, Raws are going for $41 at a very fine, while graded copies are going for $250 and 9.4. As of right now, there's 62 books in the census. So Chris Claremont wrote a text article called Voodoo. What's it all about, Alfred? I know, right? And this features Brother Voodoo's preview, which predates his first appearance in Strange Tales 169. Another thing worth noting is that this book has been seen in the actress Walker White in Goodfellas. So this book was featured in Goodfellas, a Martin Scorsese movie. And if anybody knows anything about Martin Scorsese in comics, he doesn't necessarily respect comics. So it's interesting to say that.
I don't know. I knew nothing about this book. It would be really fun to find out the history of that and to actually see a physical copy. So I'll have to. I don't imagine it's very common to find this book anywhere.
Yeah, you probably find this more like a convention or something like that. Cool. It's just one of those cool things, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at our next book. X-Men 94. Now we're gonna get to the X-Men. 1975 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book was $66,000 at 9.8. That was in April of 2022. Last sale of this book was $740 at 8.0. The raws are going for $346. Very good. While graded copies run for about $761 at an 8.0. There's 10,778 copies in the CGC census. This features the first team appearance of X-Men and the first appearance of Dragonfly. And it begins Chris Claremont's 16-year consecutive run with the title, ending at 279, which in turns he went to X-Men proper. Well, not X-Men proper. You get my point. It also features a new X-Men story following the 5 years of reprints. Would you believe that this book went through 5 years of reprints?
Yeah. Well, so like I can't remember. I think it's issue. I don't want to say for sure, but there is like a long stretch where the X-Men just weren't doing well. They didn't really know what to do, so they didn't want to cancel it per se. So they just reprinted all the issues before. And if you bought 93 and you were like, "Oh man, I'm done with this reprint shenanigans," then all of a sudden this one came out. I mean, just amazing. I love it.
Well, it came out obviously right after Giant Size X-Men, so it wasn't like you didn't know. But to think, I don't know how comics were back then at this time. The fact that they're holding on to this book, the reprints, makes no sense to me. You know, the book goes through a channel of reprints where I can't think of any other books that did that. If you guys did, let me know either in the comments or in the chat. I want to know what other books went through a long run of reprints before we have the map, because I can't think of anything else. X-Men seems to be the only book that did that.
Yeah. And I think we talked about this book before, and I think we both are kind of on the same page with the cover art. Like, I'm not a huge fan of this cover art. There's just weird stuff going on there, but this is a book that, you know, I'm missing 94 to 100, and so I'm on the hunt for it, because I have to take my own advice when I look at the census count and just like relax, you know, keep the brow clear and not do anything crazy expenditure wise on this, and just find one.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. That's a good point. Thanks a lot. All right. I'm going to stop what I promised to do and just go into the chat, because I got Charles from Chuck at Comics List. So great stuff, guys. Marvel would have kept X-Men as a reprint not to lose the space on the newsstand. Interesting note.
That's a good point.
But even so, just make another book. You know? But maybe because of X-Men or something. All right. Thanks a lot, Chuck. For I like that. His name is Charles LePage, and he goes by Chuck. Anybody else we know? We're talking about X-Men here. All right. Let's go to our next book in our list, and that is Marvel Premiere number 25. This book came out in 1975 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $300 and 9.8. That happened in October of 2017. Last sale of this book was $1 at a no grade, and that happened just recently. Raws go for $12 fine, while graded copies at 9.6 go for $110. There's 254 copies in the census. This is the first artwork on Iron Fist by John Byrne. Most notably, this also marks Chris Claremont and John Byrne collaborating, and which they would do multiple times, most notably on their iconic run on the X-Men.
Yeah, this has been one. I was never a huge Iron Fist fan, so finding out this stuff is always good. And you know, the TV show definitely, the Netflix show definitely didn't help it a whole lot.
Now, Chris he wrote Iron Fist, and he started with Marvel premieres, but then he would eventually get Iron Fist when he has his own series. So it is a character that a lot of people don't always think of when they think of Chris Claremont. Everybody thinks of X-Men, but they forget Iron Fist was a big part of Chris Claremont's life, and he did a lot of stories with it. In fact, we'll get to one book specifically that is very important to know what Chris Claremont's doing when it comes to Iron Fist, and something else as well. So really good stuff there. This is cool because it's now we got John Byrne and Chris Claremont in the book together.
Yeah.
And it was an X-Men. All right. X-Men 96. This book came out in 1975 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book was $4,080 at a 9.8, and that was in January 2024. Last sale of this book was $88 at 8.0. The raws are going for $77 fine, while the graded copies are going for $313. There's currently 3,472 copies in the census, and this features the first appearance of Moira McTaggart. However, it also features Wolverine's Berserker Rage, and it's the first time he's done it. So we're starting to see storytelling, like character development.
Yeah. And again, another very busy cover as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, when I looked this information up, it did say in the key significance the first appearance of Moira McTaggart, who is a mutant, and I said, nah, I'm not adding that. And Moira McTaggart was never intended to be a mutant. And no. Jonathan Hickman, I don't hate him for it, but yeah, she should just stay where she was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that. Like I found a lot of that whole storyline a little bit convoluted. So
it was definitely layered.
Yeah.
You know, but what are your thoughts on him coming up with the Berserker Rage?
I agree with you. I just think that, you know, he kind of hit the ground running and clearly, you know, had a plan that was out into the future. Like, I don't think he's just, you know, every month going, oh, I'm going to do this now. I think he kind of knew where things were going to kind of go and just did some things with the characters that weren't done before. And, you know, and that's one of them. It's just a great little, I just love it.
Awesome. Let's take a look at our next book, and that is X-Men 98. This book came out in 1976 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is at $10,200. That was at a 9.8. January 2024. Your head shaking. You're like, oh my goodness. Last sale of this book was $203 near mint. Raws are going for $48 at a very good. 9.4s are going for $300. Currently, there's 2,156 copies in the census. We got our first era of the day.
One.
Oh man, I thought I was gonna go by without doing there. I was like, man, I should get sick. I should feel sick more often. I'll tell you what it is, so I can fix it later.
But that was a long time with no errors. Hopefully, it doesn't all crumble apart now.
I know, right? Help me, Lord. It is 98, right? I'll get it. All right. Yes. So this is the unofficial DC crossover reporter named Clark Kent, who appeared 20 times. You know why this book is here? Because I was going to remove it and I never did. But Wolverine unmasked for the first time reveals that his claws are part of his body, not part of his gloves as creator Len Wein initially intended. This also features a cameo of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. There's a lot of stuff going on in this book.
Yeah, that's a good one to get.
But this is the book that identified that his claws were actually part of who he is rather than an extension of his costume.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where, and we've talked about this before with Wolverine and kind of with Ultimate Wolverine, where there was so much mystery and he would just drop like a sentence or two and then leave it. And then it would build into something later.
Mm-hmm. And that was the cool thing is like his origin was never revealed, but there was always like little tidbits here and there that he would just do, like Berserker Rage. In this issue, it was the claws being part of his body. We didn't know the claws were part of his body until several issues later. So that's actually cool writing.
Yeah, it's very good.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look at our next book, and that is X-Men 101. Book came out in 1976 for Marvel Comics. High sale. This book is $13,249. That was in May of 2021. Last sale, this book was $375 at a 7.5. Raws are going for $345 fine, while 8.5s go for $533. There's currently 8,829 copies in the census, and this features the debut of Jean Grey's new powers and reborn as the Phoenix. 10 years later, this moment will be further developed where the Phoenix is actually a cosmic entity of vast powers that copies Grey's physical form while placing her body in a cocoon to heal her injuries. This also is the first full appearance of Black Tom Cassidy.
I think if I ever had to ask him a question, I have met him before, which is a separate story, but I think I would want to know what's the biggest intentional payoff and like over the longest time that he ever had, like that he planted the seeds of, and then intentionally, a year or 2 or 3 down the road, like realized it, because that's a long time, 10 years to go back. And amazing. Again, I love this cover. It's a classic. Just great.
This is definitely one of the books that I want to have one day.
Yeah,
I will own this book one day. That's my plan.
I have it. It's been pressed. It's been cleaned. It's ready to go. It's just awaiting being packed up and sent to CGC.
Awesome. So he created the Phoenix, and obviously there's a story behind it. We're going to get to the story behind it. What was really cool about the Phoenix saga in general was that it wasn't wrapped up in 6 issues. You know what I mean? Yeah. It had progression. It was built to be epic, and it was storytelling at its finest. It was like, okay, we're gonna get to this point here. We're definitely going to come back to this story soon, but we're gonna just leave it be as it is. And you're gonna see little things that are gonna happen here and there. So, So with Jean Grey, I know there was a lot of controversy about her return, right? What's going to happen? And I know that Chris and John Byrne didn't agree on a lot of things, to the point, because one of the things that Chris wrote in a very Marvel style, where he'll plot the story, give it to the artist generates what they get from that, and then he comes back and he does the scripting. But in the case of John Byrne would want to throw his own little storytelling, and Chris didn't always agree with what John was doing. And to the point that they got into arguments and John left to go do something else.
Yeah.
So, and John Byrne's a tough character to deal with anyway, but and I'm not siding with either or on the story, but it was one of those situations with this story in general that was very challenging, because when we get to the Dark Phoenix saga, and then obviously will be the demise of the Phoenix story, was supposed to be permanent, and it wasn't.
Yeah,
And it really didn't take a long time before it come back.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said there, in that, this is in that seemingly lost time of comic book writing, where writers took their time and developed a story that was not going to be told in 6 issues, and we get the basically the sitcom story that's done in 20 minutes every few weeks, and they reboot it to a number 1. This was well thought out, planned out, and then structured, and bits of information were given. It was just a whole nother level. I would love to see another him take on another run, and just to see if they would let him actually do this.
Well, they've had stories where they let him do it, because there's a What If story that he wrote, where what if Jean Grey didn't die. There's also the Untold story as well, that's part of it. So he had moments where he was allowed to let go. I think he's beyond that now. It's like, what's happened. And in the character of Jean Grey, she's been killed and brought back to life probably more than any other character in comics now. You know what I mean? It's like she's never truly dead anymore.
Yeah.
So, and to the point of the people in the chat, Jim Shooter had his hand on the subject too. So I agree with that too. All right, let's go to our next one, and that is Captain Britain #1. This came out in 1976 from Marvel Comics UK, in fact. And the high sale of this book is $5,163 at a 9.8, and that was December of 2021. Last sale of this book was $151 at a very fine. Raws are going for $151 at a very fine, while 9.8s are going for $1,105 on average. There's currently 1,159 copies in the census. This is the first appearance of Captain America, first appearance of Roma, the debut of the Sword of Might, and most important, Captain Britain's mask is included inside of the issue as a bonus item. This is a really good example of a comic book that, when sent to CGC, if it doesn't have a mask, it might get the qualified label.
I mean, just look at this cover. Somebody was clearly worried that this book was not going to sell. It's got the Fantastic Four. Well, if you don't like them, it's got Nick Fury. If you don't like him, it's got S.H.I.E.L.D. And you know what? It's Captain Britain. It's a new character. It's an origin character. Hey, and you know what? We're going to throw you in a mask too.
Don't forget, it's full color.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. And it's in full color.
So this is not a traditional comic. So the size of the pages are different. Notice the price. It's 10 pence. So it is a UK edition. So this book was not released in the United States. We won't get his first appearance until Marvel Team Up. Maybe a year or two later or something like that. But Chris Claremont co-created Captain Britain. I thought that was interesting. In full color. And yeah, it is graded as a magazine. When it's done. So that's a nice little tidbit there. All right, let's go to our next book, and that is Marvel Team Up Annual #1. This came out in 1976 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $1,598 at 9.8. That was in May 2022. Last sale of this book was $11 at no grade. The raws are going for $25, while 9.2s go for $140. There are 696 copies in the census right now. This is the first team up of Spider-Man and the new X-Men team. And it's the first meeting of Wolverine and Spider-Man. It's also the second appearance of Jean Grey as the Phoenix.
Wow. And look at the price of that, even in a 9.2. That to me is a steal. I mean, for all of that, like that was one of my favorite parts of the Secret Wars book is Spider-Man when he met up with the X-Men right in whatever issue it was. I love that little fight they had. It was awesome. So I'll be looking for this book for sure.
Now, I don't know if that's Nimrod or not, but it looks like a prototype for Nimrod.
Yeah, you're right.
So, and again, this is Chris Claremont. He's doing the writing here, but Chris Claremont did write Marvel Team Up for a long time, and he wrote X-Men. So why not put the two together? And this is the first time we get the two together. And in 1976, these were probably two of the most popular characters in comics.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And a second appearance of the Phoenix for a fraction of what the first appearance is.
A little bit more than a fraction. Right. Let's go to our next book, and that is Iron Fist 14, 1977 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book's at $6,000 and 9.8, and that was in May of 2022. Last sale of this book was $152 at a 4.5, and that was in March 9th. Raws go for $344 at a very fine, while graded copies are $541 on average for 9.2. There's currently 7,754 copies in the census. This is the first full appearance and cover of Sabretooth, a mutant who will become the primary nemesis of Wolverine. I love this cover. This is
this is a good one. I mean, it's what you want in a first cover and first appearance. Like it's got him on the cover. It's a cool looking cover. I think it's good. I always wondered if he actually intended Sabretooth to go on to be so connected to Wolverine, like when he was in this book, like if it was a forethought or not.
It's quite possible. He probably looked at Sabretooth as, wait a minute, he has a lot of similar qualities as Wolverine. So why not do something about it? You know, what I also note is that it's Saber-Tooth. And they got rid of the hyphen.
Yep.
So that's something worth noting. All right. All right. Yeah. So, and to note what's in the chat, it took a long time to get Sabretooth into X-Men. Very long time. We don't see him into the X-Men until the 80s. So he'll get there eventually. But and he's too cool of a character not to. All right. Let's go to our next book. X-Men 108. This is 1977 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $1,375 and 9.8, and that was in April of 2021. Last sale of this book was $20, no grade. Raws go by $50, very fine. Graded copies go for $231 and 9.6, and on average. The census count has 2,451, and this is the first John Byrne artwork on X-Men, which is the collaboration that started here and runs all the way to 143. We talked about this book when we talked about John Byrne. But now let's talk about it through the eyes of Chris Claremont. You get this hot up-and-coming artist. How excited would you think you will feel? Oh, well, he's worked with him before, right?
Yeah, he's worked with him before, and obviously, I don't know how things were doled out then at Marvel, but presumably there was some kind of relationship there between the two of them because they were probably all showing up at the office then, and maybe that's how this happened. But what a great run for both of them to have for that long, and obviously, like I've said it before, this run, like it did so much for collectors because X-Men were massive in this time.
Yeah, and they're only getting better. You know what I mean? They were only getting bigger at this time. So
Yeah.
they were, like you said, they were massive, but they didn't reach their heights until the 80s.
Yeah.
Well into and well into the 90s. So but at this time, X-Men was still contained within their little pocket universe that was there, and it was just pretty much X-Men proper. There was nothing really there. Notice, and I haven't showed you this before, but notice that the title says X-Men because that was the name of the book when back then it was called X-Men. We'll get to Uncanny afterwards.
Yeah.
Let's go to our next book, and that is Power Man 48. This came out in 1977 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $688 at 9.8. That was in October of 2021. Last sale of this book was $27 at a fine. Raw's going for $17 at a fine, while 9.6 are going for $130. There's currently 2,400. I'll say that again. There's currently $2,451. You hear me? He said dollars. I can't. There are currently 2,451 copies in the census. This is the first team up of Power Man and Iron Fist.
Isn't it really cool how there's just some characters that they get put together and they have a super long history like these two? Like you wouldn't really think they would end up together, and then they do, and it's just either in the writing or the character style or a combination, and it just works. Like even in the TV show, it was fun when they both kind of, because I was always wondering, well, what's going to happen when he punches him?
I know, right? These two they're like the perfect pair. You know, it's like that Lethal Weapon pairing.
Yeah.
Riggs and Murdoch. It's kind of like that with them too. They both share an affinity to yellow. That's important, right?
Yep.
And they're both street level characters, but they also have superpowers in some way. So it's a good dynamic, and Chris was responsible for putting them together.
Yeah. Again, awesome.
Let's go to our next book, and that is Marvel Team Up 74. This book came out in 1978 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book's at $313 at 9.8. That was October of 2022. Last sale of this book was $6 at a good, and Raws are going for $14 at fine, while 9.8s are going for $185 on average. Currently, there's 193 copies in the census. Significance is that this features the characters from the TV show Saturday Night Live. Now, before you say anything, Chris Claremont has a great story of how this happened. But it's worth noting that if you look at the cover, it doesn't actually say anywhere Saturday Night Live. It just says not ready for primetime players. And it makes reference to Saturday Night like Live from New York. It's Saturday Night, which is the call sign. But never does it say Saturday Night Live. And the reason for that is that the show was never called Saturday Night Live until much later in the run. So the whole term SNL didn't happen till much later.
Yeah, I saw this book. I think Matt showed it on his show, actually, if I remember. I don't know for sure where I saw it first, but I was like, okay, I'm getting that book. So I ended up picking it up, and it's a pretty good copy. I think it's hilarious. It's fun.
Yeah. Like I said, it is a great story. Chris tells a great story about how this happened. A lot of it has to do with John Belushi and how much John Belushi loved Spider-Man specifically. So, but there is a great story about how they got together, which hopefully one day I'll share that with you guys. All right, let's go to our next book, and that is Uncanny X-Men 129. Notice it's now Uncanny X-Men. All right, it came out in 1980 from Marvel Comics. Last high sale of this book was $6,600 at 9.8. That was in May of 2021. Last sale of this book was $94 at a 7.5. Raws are going for $144, very fine, while graded copies goes for $489. There's currently 8,287 copies in the census. This is part 1 of the Phoenix Saga. This also features the first appearance of Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, and a cameo of the Hellfire Club.
What a awesome book. When you get into this range, it's like every issue has something important about it. Like they're really starting to roll now.
Did I ever tell you that I found this book in my collection?
No.
I have this book. Unfortunately, the copy I have is kind of beat up, but I had no idea I had this book until one day I'm just cleaning up my collection and I'm like, and I looked at it. It took me a second. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then I'm like, oh crap, I got this. So I'm happy to say I have a copy. Yeah, it's a little. It has there's a part of it's ripped off in the back. I think it's in the back cover. So it's a very low grade copy, but it's like, oh wow, I got this book. Cool. Yeah. Now, like I told you guys before in the start, I'm not going to go over all the books, so I am going to skip a few because of time and really because of a lot of work. So I'm just going to go right into part 9 of Uncanny X-Men 137, 1980. A high sale of this book was $7,945. That was at a 9.9, and that was in March of 2022. High sale of this book was $115 at a 9.6. Raws are going for $49, very fine, while the 9.6 are going for $119. There's 5,994 copies in the census, and this is the final part of the Dark Phoenix saga. Obviously, an iconic cover by John Byrne, the death of Jean Grey, and there is a controversial issue due to Jean Grey taking her own life, knowing she will not control the Phoenix Force.
This whole kind of run, like Claremont's whole run, at some point, I'm going to just start from 94 and just read the whole thing through again. And like, I love the Phoenix storyline, so that would be fun to get to.
I do have a digital copy of that whole run, the entire run. I'm talking about a large file. Someone gave it to me years ago, from 94 to like, I can't even tell you what number it ends, but it was very long. And this, to me, this is one of my favorite covers. One of my favorite covers. I absolutely love this cover. It says so much with so little. You know what I mean? And then right in the bottom, the Phoenix must die.
Yeah.
You know?
I love how it's got his optic blast is highlighting the characters over on the left there. It's great.
Yeah, really good composition as well. So great stuff from John Byrne. Uncanny X-Men 141. This came out in 1981. A year later, would you believe that? From Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $1,950 at 9.8. That happened in April of 2021. Last sale of this book was $69 at very good. Raws are going for $86 at very 5, while 9.6 are going for $277. There's currently 9,101 copies in the census, and this is part 1 of Days of Future Past, which also features the first appearance of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Destiny, Avalanche, and Pyro also make their first appearance. This also has the first appearance of Rachel Summers, who is the daughter of Scott and Jean Grey.
This one was kind of like the first type of reading experience with the X-Men, with the whole time travel thing for me. And I loved Rachel Summers' character. I thought she was so cool. And just, again, mysterious at first. They didn't give a lot away. She was hunting mutants at first, and they got into that a little bit later. And yeah, I have just these 2 issues, I believe, in a trade. And I read it probably once a year.
Yeah. And wasn't this supposed to have been like a filler story that they created?
I'm not sure, but possibly, yeah.
Yeah, because it's only 2 issues, where the Dark Phoenix is 9 parts. They managed to tell us a great story in 2 issues.
Yeah.
and a story that has weight as well, because we still feel the effects of the Days of Future Past to today. So that's how much weight this story has. And that cover gets homage a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff. Moving on to Avengers Annual number 10. This came out in 1981 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is 2,509.8. That was in March of 2021. Last sale of this book was 86,009.0. We're also going for $62, very fine, while graded copies go for $226. The census count has this book as 11,631 copies. This is the first appearance of Rogue. There's also the first cover appearance of Mystique, and it's the one and only appearance of a girl named Maddie Pride, who is not Madeline Pride. In fact, if you go to I think it's Go Collect, I'm not sure, it says first appearance of Madeline Pride, but it's not the same character.
Yeah. Well, this so much not good with this cover.
It is a very loud cover.
And to be like, we talked about the Sabretooth cover, but for this to be Mystique's first cover is kind of a bummer, really.
It's Mystique's first cover. You kind of see like a silhouette of Rogue, that's her first cover. So, and it's Avengers. It's a king size annual.
Yeah.
But it's an important book.
It is. Yep.
So, made the list. Moving on to Wolverine number 1 in 1982 from Marvel Comics. This book is $27,000 at a 10.0. That's it exists. And that was in June of 2024. Last sale of this book was $130 at a near mint. Raws are going for $134 near mint, while 9.8s are going for $540. There's currently 30,536 copies in the census. This features the first solo title of Wolverine. It's a limited series, and it's also Frank Miller's work. Has a cameo of Unico, who becomes a love interest for Wolverine. And it's the first time he used the phrase, "I'm the best there is at what I do. And what I do is
not nice."
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's classic. And, awesome art. I've read this a whole bunch of times too. I have a trade of it. I recently bought the 4 original issues. Again, with the storytelling, you always know it's good. Like, I can remember this story and like the build up to it. And, I just thought it was really fun to read, and still is.
Yeah. Wolverine is one of those characters. He was the most popular X-Men at the time, so they figured, let's give him a limited series and see what happens. And years later, look how many copies are in the census.
Yeah.
There's a lot in the census. Okay. All right, our next books are graphic novels. We're going to look at 2 of them, starting with Marvel graphic novel number 4, The New Mutants, that came out in 1982 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $1,250 at 9.8, and that was in May of 2021. Last sale of this book was $25 at a fine, and the raws are going for $27 fine, and 9.8s are going for $643. There's 1,852 copies in the census, and this features the first team appearance of the New Mutants: Cannibal, Psyche, Wolfsbane, Suspot, Karma, who would later be called Danny Moonsart, and, Danny Moonsart later becomes Mirage, as the first appearance of White Rook, which is a member of the Hellfire Club.
This is a very underrated book, in my opinion. I picked this up recently, and I think I read it again. I thought it was a really good read. The story was good. Has all of their origins, all of their first appearances, except for Karma. She appears first in a Fantastic Four book, I believe. And just a fun read. I love this book. It looks good. That's good all around.
Yeah. The New Mutants, during the time that was started collecting. I was not a big fan of the New Mutants. They were kind of like the B-less X-Men, right? That's how I felt. But it was also an opportunity because the X-Men is based off of school, right? School of the Gifted Youngsters, but yet the X-Men themselves are not youngsters. So it didn't make much sense at the time. But now it's like, okay, so what we got to do is we got to make it useful, and that's where the New Mutants come in. New Mutants are the students, which I
Yeah,
thought was a cool idea.
yeah. Again, the writing part of it's so good because you take that notion of they're at a school. Well, what do we have at school? Well, we've got kids, and we're going to have some mutant kids that we can develop and show and test them, see
Mhm.
see which ones I like and which ones the audience
Yeah.
likes, and then bring them into the X-Men. And
Yeah.
it just gave them so many opportunities. It was a great idea.
Yeah, and I think this was the start of the expansion of the X-Men and the mutant society in the Marvel universe. So that's kind of like it started here. And then the next book that we're going to look at is iconic as well. A lot of people, it's it's what Chris Claremont says is the most personal story to him. And that is Marvel graphic novel number 5, which is the story of God Loves, Man Kills. This came out in 1982 for Marvel Comics, and the high sale of this book's only at $330 and 9.6, and that was in November of 2023. Last sale of this book was $250 and 9.8. Raws go for $42, while graded copies go for about $240 and 9.8. There's only 422 copies in the census. It is a magazine style format. It's the first appearance of General William Stryker and a team appearance of the Purifiers. This also features Kitty Pryde, that changed her name to Ariel and was formerly known as Sprite, and she also gets a new costume. Kitty Pryde just keeps getting new names all the time, but that's why we just call it Kitty Pryde. But more importantly, this story is probably the most important X-Men story out of all of them. Like, we could say say what you want to say about Dark Phoenix Saga, say what you want to say about Days of Future Past, and yes, those are very important stories. This may be the most important story because this is the story that makes the X-Men relevant, and more importantly, relevant to reality.
Yeah. And this is one that I actually have to revisit again because I have not read it in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's one of those ones that you read it and, there's parts that, are very important, like you said. And the whole Kitty Pryde thing, I just think, again, that's an example of his writing. He was constantly tweaking it and coming up with something different and giving it a try. And that type of thing doesn't happen that much anymore.
Yeah, I personally like Shadowcat. That's my best one. That's my favorite.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. All right. Next book is New Mutants 26. This book came out in 1985 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is at $335 and 9.8, which was April of 2017. Last sale of this book was $7 at a no grade. Raws go for $19, very fine. $104 for a 9.8. And there's currently 2,149 copies in the census. This features the first appearance of Legion, the son of Professor X.
Great character. I love the TV show. I thought it was really good. And again, the New Mutants, this was a fun era in their story because it's still early on. You've got Magic appeared just a few issues before this. Then you've got Legion here. Yeah, I just thought, and it's a fun character. Take Professor X and how can we do something crazy?
Yeah, Legion to me was such a great character, who is responsible for the Age of Apocalypse. Let's not forget that part. And like you said, it just made sense that Professor X, who his mutant ability is being able to read people's mind, births a son who has multiple personalities.
Yeah.
How coincidental is that?
Yeah. And again, we talked about it a lot, but the writing, like there was a plan with that. You know, that this just isn't like Marvel saying, "Hey, we need a new character." This is definitely, in my opinion, anyway, all driven from Claremont's ideas of what he wanted to do. So very cool.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's look at our next book, and that's Uncanny X-Men 201. This book came out in 1986 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $200 and 9.8, and that was in March of 2023. Last sale of this book was $15 at a find. Raws are going for $13 at a very fine, while 9.8s are going for $98. There's 2,429 copies in the census, and this features the first appearance of Nathan Summers as a baby who will grow up to become Cable.
And not mentioned there, but again, with the story development, you've got Storm and Cyclops battling for the leadership of the X-Men. And I remember this issue very well. Like, she has no powers. This is her no power phase. And, you know, it was kind of written in a way like, oh, well, this isn't even going to be fair. You know, Cyclops going against Storm, and spoiler, like, she won.
Yeah. It's good storytelling, and I like that it's a foreshadow of things to come. I don't think Chris knew about Cable in that way, but there is a story to be told about the baby in the future, going into the future, which was after Chris Claremont. However, Cable will end up becoming one of the biggest characters of the 90s. And I remember when they were talking about the origins of Cable, this book was a big spec book at one time. Huge spec book. To find out, you know, that this is his actual first appearance in the weird way. So cool stuff there. Love this book.
Yeah.
I think I have like 3 copies of it. Love this book. All right. We have Uncanny X-Men 212. This book came out in 1986 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $459 and 9.8. That was in July of 2024. Last sale of this book was $5 and no grade. Book goes for $11 fine, while 9.8s go for $352. There's 2,939 copies in the census, and this is the first recorded battle of Wolverine versus Sabretooth.
And, you know, obviously awesome classic cover. And this is kind of where the whole Sabretooth thing, where he's, I think, switches and becomes a way more important character in the X-Men world.
Yeah. I think I find this book being so undervalued with its importance because of the rich history of Sabretooth and Wolverine, that why their first meeting is not more important. In fact, their the Wolverine cover, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, is 7, 8, or 9, one of those 2 numbers, seems to have more value than this one.
Yeah.
So I don't get it.
Very strange.
Uncanny X-Men 244, 1989, Marvel Comics. This book had a high sale of $3,120 and 9.9. That was January of this year. Last sale of this book was $19 and no grade. Raws are going for about $23 near mint, while graded copies go for $178. There's currently 7,029 copies in the census. And yes, this features the first appearance of Jubilee, a Chinese-American teenager with the ability to emit fireworks from her fingers. Oh, you got to know, I love Jubilee.
yeah, of course. So you have this book, obviously.
Oh, I have several copies.
Yeah.
I will eventually have to get a 9.8 one day.
Yeah, and that's not even a bad price, really. $178 for a 9.8 of this. This cover, like, it's too bad she's not on the cover as well. I usually like his Silvestri's art style, which I'm 90% sure that's who this is.
Yes.
And you know, this one to me, like, I don't know, there's something about it that it's not doing it for me, but I do usually like his art.
It's a funny cover. It's a very odd cover. Almost as crazy as it sounds, it looks comedic. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Because they look like they're scared when they shouldn't.
Yeah, you're right. That's I think you put your finger on it there. It comes across as like not as serious as what it would be with dudes standing there with automatic rifles
Yeah.
ready to take them down.
But it's like one of those situations where, like, oh, we're going to kick your ass. You just don't know it yet. So they're being sarcastic here.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't know, but it is an iconic book. It's a book that, it's, if you're an X-Men fan, you gotta have it. If you're a Jubilee fan, it's a must-have.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to our next book, and that's X-Men Annual 14. This book came out in 1990 from Marvel Comics. This book had a high sale of $10,250 at 9.9 in May of 2021. However, the last sale of this book was $25, no grade. $44 on near mint is the raw, what the raw is going for, and $149 is 9.8. There's currently 7,594 copies in the census. First appearance of Gambit, which is a debatable first appearance. However, he shows up in 15 panels. Talk to me. Why do people don't consider this to be the first appearance of Gambit?
Well, I can tell you exactly why. Is because of a timing error and a delay of this book. So the other one, X-Men 266, actually came out before this one due to that timing error. And that's really what's caused all the debate about this, because the other one actually was out first. And this one came out after, but has all those panels. So
yeah. So it's not really a cameo, is it?
no.
Speaking of which, Uncanny X-Men 266. This book sold for $26,351 at 9.9 on April of 2021. Last sale of this book is $230 at 9.6. The near mint goes for $158. 9.8 goes for $529 at a 9.8. There's currently 26,575 copies. This features the first appearance in a cover for Gambit.
And I get it. Like I own this one as well. I own the other one. I have the other one graded.
Yeah, I have both too.
What always makes me laugh is that this cover is cited as being like so awesome. And it is. It's a good cover, except for like when you start to really hone in on his costume there, there's some weird stuff happening.
So I had a conversation with Andy Kubert, who did this cover. And he was not, as he puts it, because I told him, I straight up told him, I wish I had it recorded. I said, was there something off with the cover? Because he looks like he's wearing the thong.
Yeah.
And so what it really was, it was a coloring error. But more importantly, it was a coloring error on Andy's part, where he wasn't able to identify. Because if you look at the corner box, it's very clear that the pants are supposed to be black with that little design in the side.
Yeah.
So, it's a creation of Jim Lee, which why Jim Lee didn't get a cover, I don't know. But I guess who's to say, right? What's the story about? Today it's an iconic cover, of course, but it is very strange because of like he never has that costume in that format ever.
Yeah. Really, just the trench coat is the similar thing across the board for him.
Yeah. So, yeah, but he does look like he has a thong on. It's like, why would anybody walk around like that? All right. X-Men #1, 1991 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book was at $3,000, and the one that the one that was on sale for $3,000 is the cover C, which is the one that we're looking at right now. That was in February of 2025. Last sale of this book was $5 at a fine. Near mints go for about $8. 9.8s go for $70. There's currently 24,037 copies in the census. This is the best-selling comic of all the best-selling comic of all time with sales of 8.1 million copies.
I will say that, you know, if you paid $3,000 for a 9.9, I don't know, you've got a lot of money.
It didn't happen once; it happened twice.
Yeah, like I would like to get all of the covers in a 9.8, like the regular covers. I mean, not these crazy ones. But yeah, that's nutso.
It is. It's an iconic story. It's a comic book. It has, obviously, if you don't have a copy, you should have a copy. They're easily obtainable. There's 8 million copies out there. Come on.
Yeah, there's lots.
Get your copies. All right. Now let's move away from X-Men just for a little while to Aliens Predator, the Deadliest of Species at number 1. This came out at number 1. The Deadliest Species, number 1. This came out in 1993 for Dark Horse Comics. A high sale of this book was at $100 at 9.8, and that was in January 2025. Last sale of this book was $5 at a very fine, which is also the fair market value for the Raws. $100 for a 9.8. There's currently 122 copies in the census. Now, keep in mind there is also a variant silver foil ash can edition that was limited to 1,000 copies, and it goes for approximately $1,000. What I like to note is Chris Claremont writing Aliens and Predator.
This is a really good series too. I own this series. Has some really cool covers. The story is good. Why they didn't use some part of this for the movie, I don't understand. But if you can find this, I would definitely pick this up. I don't know if it's in a trade. I'm sure it is somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
But it's a really fun read. And again, you know, great storytelling in it.
Yeah. So around this time, Chris was away from Marvel for a little while. He will return. We'll talk a little bit more about that return a little later. He will return to Marvel afterwards, but he was doing other projects. So he did some Dark Horse stuff. He was doing some. He did some work with Image because Image just started. He did some Wildcats, and it was his opportunity to get away from X-Men, you know, and to really spread his wings as a writer. But like everything else, when you're so embedded to something, it's kind of hard to get away from it, if that makes sense, you know? So let's take a look at our next book, and that was Wildcats number 10. I figured I put Wildcats number 10. Came out in 1994 for Image Comics. High sale of this book's $120 at 9.8, which is also the fair market value. The book goes for about $3. It's a dollar bin book. 28 copies in the census, but this also reunites Chris Claremont with Jim Lee on Wildcats, and what a booty shot we got there.
Yeah, you know, this is peak 90s, right? This is foily, you know, scantily goodness, if you call it goodness.
Sister Zealot, I remember that she went by. How do you like the Wildcats?
I enjoyed it at the time because this was, again, you know, we were just talking about the whole beginning of Image. So they were just doing all this crazy stuff. And I didn't mind it. They did bring this character back into regular DC kind of land, I believe. So she is back.
She is one of my favorite characters, but every time I see her, this is what Storm and Psylocke will look like together.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I was always I was a fan of Wildcats. It's very obvious they were a knockoff of X-Men, but there was like a war and things like that. So they try to make it different, but I always enjoyed the Wildcats. They were always fun team. Sovereign 7, this came out in 1995 for DC Comics. High sale of this book is $40 and 9.8, and that was in March of 2022. Last sale of this book was $3 at a fine. However, this book goes for about $1. It's a dollar bin book. The graded copies, $23 is the average, and there's only 20 in the census, and this is the first team appearance of the Sovereign 7. Here's something that's worth noting. It's the first creator title in the mainstream DC universe of storytelling. and it was created by Chris Claremont. So when Chris Claremont left Marvel, DC approached him for doing a title, and they gave him creator rights
That's
for
huge.
Sovereign 7, which is huge. And then they're part of the DC universe, mainstream universe. So
Yeah, and this is kind of one of those, when you want to look at why, some characters don't pop up in places, it's, not so much a desire not to have them. It's that the company doesn't want to pay the owner of the character. And I think this is one of those circumstances, because I have this series. I bought all of them. I think it's good. You can tell that, they weren't happy with the sales at first because they expected, X-Men level stuff. But I don't think that they really gave them a chance to, get the story going. And now I don't think any of these characters play a role in anything DC does. And I think it's mainly because they don't want to pay them to do it.
yeah, and it was weird. It was a weird move to give him creator rights for something. Now, again, I'm all for it, but I would have figured Sovereign 7 would have been an Image book rather than a DC book, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't. DC took it. They allowed him to keep the rights for it, and the end is history.
And it's in the dollar bins.
Yep. Heroes Reborn Doomsday #1. This came out in 2000 for Marvel Comics. A high sale of this book is $65 and 9.8. It came out, and that was in November of 2024. Last sale of this book was $5 at a no grade. Raws are going for about $11 in money or mint. 9.8s are going for $65 on average. There's currently 18 in the census. This is the first appearance of Lancer, the average person turned into something akin to a herald in service to Doctor Doom. But what's most notable is that Doomsday is the subtitle of the 2026 Avengers film, but the story is unlikely to inspire the plot of the movie. Is this the case where this book was a spec book because of its title? But what's more important is that Chris Claremont wrote it, because at that time he was writing Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I've never heard of this book, so that's really interesting. But it's one of those, I think it's a case of, whether they knew it or not, when they came up with this title, like someone at Marvel probably said, "Oh, we had a book called that." And they're like, "Oh, we just like the name." It could have been a situation like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And there are people that are trying to hunt this down for that reason only, too. Extreme X-Men #1. This came out in 2001 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $75 and 9.8. Last sale of this book was $2 near mint. That's also the fair market value of this book. This book is $44 and 9.8. There's 78 copies in the census. This features the first team appearance of the Extreme X-Men, which included Storm, Beast, Bishop, Sage, Psylocke, Thunderbird, which is also Shara. It's also the first appearance of Vargas, the next step in human evolution.
I really like this series. I think that there's some people that don't. Like, I thought it was good. The covers were always great.
Yeah.
Like, I just flipped through it recently. I was looking for something and came across the whole run of it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is all good stuff, like art-wise. So it's another one that's on my list to revisit this and read it again.
Yeah. So Marvel came back to Chris and say, "Hey, we want you to do a book." And he says, "I want to do the book the way I want to do it." And this is the result of that. Extreme X-Men he practically had full control of the X-Men, so they gave him free range to do what he want. He asked for these characters. These are the characters he wanted to work with, and that's what he did. There is debate whether it's in continuity or not, because it was at a strange time in Marvel Comics where we're getting new X-Men and things like that. So it's kind of hard to know that. However, I personally enjoy it. I think the artwork, like you said, was stellar at that time, and it has some great covers. So it's a nice little part of him getting back to the X-Men. He started working for X-Men proper for a little while, but it was never the same as it once was. So And here's one that really stood out to me, and that's JLA Scary Monsters #1. The book came out in 2003 for DC Comics. A high sale of this book is $39 and 9.8. Now that's with an asterisk, and that was in June of 2019. Last sale of this book was $3 at a very fine. Raws are going for $4. It's really a dollar bin book. The fair market value for a graded copy is $39 and 9.8. Notice the asterisk. It's a CBCS. As of today, there's no known copies of this book in the census. And it does not feature the first team appearance.
That's only 2. That's good.
2. Chris Claremont on JLA.
Yeah. I'll look for this book. Like, the art looks good.
Might be hard to find.
Yeah, you can tell that, like, I have never even heard of this book. So
neither did I after today.
When
Today was the first time I saw it.
Yeah, when something like that happens, it's kind of like, okay, this is going to be a little bit harder one to find.
Mm-hmm. When they told him, "Hey, would you like to do the Justice League?" and he got the Justice League. He didn't get like the small band. He got the heavy hitters.
Yep.
I honestly thought it was cool, but for some reason it didn't work.
Yeah, I'll have to read it and see what it's about for sure.
Yeah. So, and he eventually goes to JLA, and he starts working with John Byrne again with JLA proper. I didn't cover it because we covered it last time, but that magic wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So it turns out that was the case, and that was the case with this one. And then finally, I figured we might as well end with this one. That's Chris Claremont Anniversary Special #1 that came out in 2021 for Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $25 at a 9.8. That also happens to be the fair market value. That was in August of 2021. The last sale of this book was $2 and no grade. And this is a dollar bin book. It's cover price. There's 17 copies in the census. And it's Chris Claremont returning to the New Mutants, a team of characters he created in 1982 and developed through issues 54, at which time Louise Simonson took over writing. And it's just kind of like paying tribute to Chris Claremont, which I think was really cool for Marvel to do that.
And I just checked. I actually own this book.
Really?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So there you have it. What's your thoughts on this one?
I'll go back and read it again. I mean, I would have solely bought this when it came out just based on the name on the book. So I'm sure that's what a lot of people did.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what happened too. All right. With that said, that's our creative spotlight, Chris Claremont. We hope you enjoyed this look into the history of Chris Claremont, what he's done for the industry, specifically what he's done with the X-Men and everything else that came along before and afterwards. Please let us know in the chat what you think. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, all that fun stuff that goes along with it. We thank you for your time with this one. We've reached that final point, and that was a long one, man. I was feeling it, man. I'm still feeling it.
You're almost there.
Almost there, right? I got to say what's up to my boy, Bobby De La Ghetto. The Grizz MD is also in the house. Arelis came by to say what's up. DVH, what's going on, man? I was daydreaming. Start over. Hell no, dude. You have no idea what I'm going through right now. I am struggling right now. For those of you that just started tuning in, I feel a little under the weather right now, and I just want to get this over with, but I don't want to end it. You know, I feel like I have a responsibility, so I'm gonna make sure we live up to that responsibility, and we get to our last segment. We only got one to go, guys.
Let's do it.
And that is, it's New Comic Book Day on Wednesday. And what's coming out Wednesday? Let's find out right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
New comic book week for March 10th, 2025. Woo-hoo. I was thinking about which book am I going to put as our cover page, and I couldn't help myself. It's just too crazy.
Yeah,
That's
I can't
it.
remember who the artist of this is. I'll have to look it up. But man, that is a good
You don't
cover.
have, you won't have to look it up. I'll tell you later.
Okay,
You'll find out who it is. But
and
yeah,
that this I almost sent the sketch one too because I almost like it more, but the color one I really like too. So
we're actually gonna look at both of them. So
good, good, good.
yeah. So let's go ahead and take a look at last week's what we call previously fresh top voted comics according to the League of Comic Geeks. The number one book was Ultimates 10 with 34%. Batgirl came in second with 12%. Hyde Street was at 7. Fist of Khonshu Moon Knight was number 5, and Secret 6 came in last place at 4%. Any thoughts on any of these books?
Yeah, I've read all of them except for the Moon Knight and the Secret 6.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Ultimates was good. I'm really liking the build up now because there's only 8 months left
Mm-hmm.
in this storyline they're getting to with the Maker and his countdown and everything.
Yeah.
Batgirl, I really like. I keep saying it's the book that I don't want to buy, but every issue is good, so I pick up the next one.
Yeah.
Hyde Street, part of that Ghost Machine universe. This story was really good. It's kind of like a little bit of a prequel almost as to how one of the characters ends up in there, but does give you some stuff that's coming up. So it was really good that way too.
Cool. All right, let's move on and do the rundown. It's time for the rundown. We have 72 new releases, 185 variants, guys. You got to cool it off, man. That gives us 257 new books in the stand come Wednesday. From there, you have 7 new number ones. From those number ones, 20 of them are variants, which gives us a total of 27 number ones that are going to be in the shelves. As far as potential keys goes, we have 9 keys with 5 new appearances, first appearances that will be added. And they may be more, they may be less. Who's to say? Right. As far as publisher breakdowns, Marvel has 16 titles with 43 variants, while DC has 8 titles with 48 variants. As far as the other independent publishers go, Image has 14 titles with 48 variants. Boom has 2 titles with 4 variants. IDW has 2 titles with 4 variants. Dynamite has 2 titles with 18 variants. It seems to be a little easier for next week, right?
Yeah.
And Dark Horse has 3 titles with 2 variants. As far as the remaining indie companies, 25 titles and 26 variants. It's a short week, I'll say, but it's still there's some good stuff coming out.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. When I went through the list, it looked good.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look. Starting with our first key watch, and that's all new Venom issue number 4. We have the Adam Kubert cover A. Also, there's a Gabriel Del Otto cover. There's a trade that's open order, but there's the 1 in 100 cover, and there's the Giuseppe Gamamuchikoli, which is also a connecting cover. It looks like Rick Jones is not all new Venom. So they're weeding them out, right? That's what we're looking at. We're weeding out the possibilities of who is Venom because Rick Jones turned out to be the all new sleeper. So who's left, Shane?
Well, of the 4, they eliminated Luke Cage, they eliminated Rick Jones, and they eliminated Madam Mask. So that would leave Robbie Robertson. But don't know for sure about that because it could be somebody that isn't one of those 4.
But we're not going to find that in this issue. They already announced that it's going to be issue 5, or it's going to be issue 5 that we're going to get the announcement.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it's not going to be this one.
So they should have. I'm a little shocked that they actually said that now, but oh well. Absolute Superman number 5 is coming out this week. You have cover A by Rafa Sandoval. There's also 150 Sean Murphy, and surprisingly, Jay Lee did the same image in a different perspective Did they call each other?
Yeah, who knows? Very similar.
But we're finally going to get the final fate of Krypton. We're going to learn a little bit more about what actually happened to Krypton.
I'm
What do
looking
you
forward
think?
to this, and I love that Sandoval cover. I think it looks amazing.
It's a great cover, yeah. What do you think is going to happen with Krypton?
Possibly blow up.
That's usually what happens, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
pretty much.
what's going to end up happening is I think the story is that maybe he had something to do with it, indirectly, of course, but maybe he had something to do with it.
Yeah, you know what? That could be it. That could be a little bit different take on where the character is. So yeah, I think you might be right with that.
Right, because he's like mourning
Yeah.
and stuff. So we'll see. Right. Also out this week, Iron Man 6, where we get the start of a new storyline, but more importantly, we get a new armor from Iron Man. This will be armor number 4,268 because that's the importance of Iron Man armor.
I like this run, Izzy. I think it's good. I like the run, the last run where he was married to Emma for a while. That was just an interesting storyline. But this is going to be a tie-in with One World Under Doom, so we'll get to see where all that lies with Iron Man, which will be fun. And I've been reading all these, so
yeah, I love the Elizabeth Swart cover where it's invisible armor.
yeah,
That's pretty funny. All right.
yeah.
And
he's
the
got
Ian Bertram cover is really nice.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. Okay. Aquaman number 3. There's a John Timms cover. There's a Jenny Frism cover. Look at that cover. And there's a 1 in 25 Salvador La Roca cover, which I think is gorgeous. More importantly, Darkseid is Aquaman? What is Jeremy Adams doing here?
Who knows? I could never get excited about Aquaman. Sorry, Aquaman fans.
Mm-hmm. Well, it might be something to look checking out because the whole Darkseid situation right now is intense with the Absolute Universe.
Yes,
so let's
for
see.
sure.
Okay. Then you have Transformers 18. This is going to feature the first full cover appearance of Shredhead, which is that one right in the center. That's the Daniel Warren Johnson spoiler cover. Be careful because that might be sold out already.
Yeah, just keep your eye out. And I mentioned it last week or on the monthly one, I think, when we were talking about Transformers. I said, watch for that first cover appearance of Shredhead. So yeah, I'll be checking the store tomorrow or on Wednesday for that one. Maybe I'll message him and tell him to put it aside.
Yeah, so it's definitely an open order book, but from what I'm hearing right now is that the FOCs are sold out. So what you're gonna have to do is you're going to have to either open order it, get the order in, like you said, contact your LCS, or do what I do, show up at the shop the minute it opens, and they might have it.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of going to Midtown Comics. They have it.
Yeah,
but they will have it for maybe a few minutes.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's going to be a big deal. And then we have our Indie Key of the Week, which is a Sorted Crisis event, which is an ongoing zigzagging anthology series about to comprise of clicks of our clocks full of one-shot stories. So it's a time travel story. That's an anthology, and I think these covers are really cool. I specifically like the 1 in 25 Mike Del Mundo cover.
What? Who's? Oh, it's Image. Yeah, I'll flip through it and see. I do like that Del Mundo. I think that's my favorite one.
Yeah, and I kind of like the design. The trade dress is pretty cool as well. I like the concept of the trade dress.
Very different for sure.
Eye-catching variants. You got the Scotty Young Amazing Spider-Man 69, which these covers just keep getting better and better.
Yeah.
Also, you have the 1 in 25 Ben Harvey cover that features Black Cat with a tombstone of Spider-Man. It's like, here lies Spider-Man. Like someone went as far as getting a tombstone of Spider-Man with his logo on it.
Yeah,
I always thought that was interesting. You got the X-Men 13, 1 in 50 Ejikua Storm cover, which is a banger of a cover.
Yeah, and that one is
Mhm.
also an open order one with the trade dress, so that'll
Yeah.
probably be a pretty popular cover.
Yeah. You got DC versus Vampires World War V issue number 7, the Santa Fung, one of the best names in comics. Santa Fung.
And a great
That's a cool.
cover too.
When I first saw it, I thought it was Absolute Wonder Woman
Yeah, me too.
because she kind of looks like that, right?
Yeah,
But
I think
it's the
the
alternate
background.
version. Yeah, Action Comics 1048 has a Howard Porter cover of Superman playing basketball with aliens. Sure,
Okay,
why not?
great.
Green Lantern Corps issue number 2, the Fernando Passerian "We Want You" poster. I like that one with Kilowog. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. Also, Void Rivals 17 with the 1 in 50 Fred Ham Chung cover featuring Hot Rod. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
then
one.
as we talked about earlier, you have the Jeff Monk covers of Spawn 362. You have the color version, and then you have the Virgin black and white version, both of which are open orders. They're
Just
both
gorgeous.
gorgeous. They both look great.
Oh my God, those are good covers.
Yeah, they're probably going to be instant sellouts as well. I could see them off the shelves. That's how good they look.
And that's, again, in Canada, we're still feeling the heat from this diamond situation where a lot of shops aren't getting these books. So it makes it even kind of more scarce and creates that buzz, people trying to find them.
Yeah. And then we have Space Ghost 11, the 1 in 10 Bjorn Barron's cover, which is really good. The Glowing Woman, she's finally going to get her proper cover, which in Geiger's 12 by Gary Frank, and she looks mad.
Yeah.
Right?
That issue 11 was good. It's kind of leading to a little bit of a show off between the two of them, I think.
Yeah. And finally, Star Wars Legacy of Vader number 2, the Derek Chew cover. There's also another cover that's really good for that book, but I figured let's put this one in there. All right. And with that said, that's new comic books for this week, guys. We did it.
You made it.
I'm feeling it, man. You could tell that I'm feeling it, guys. All right. It's a long show, but a good one. Thank you, L. Ron Harbit. All right. Thanks. Just a shorter version. Yeah, we released throughout the day, so if you miss it, that's fine. It's Paul the Dork, isn't it? Yeah, it probably is.
No. It better not be, Izzy. I'm going to tell you that right now. If that Paul is Venom, I'm going to be
really
very upset.
Uh-oh. Now I'm hoping it is, just to see you get upset. Already got the 9.8 shredded on order. Congratulations, DVH. Awesome. All right, guys. I'm going to head out. This is we kept it to 2.5 hours. I think that might be a record.
That's good.
Right? Maybe. I'm going to let you guys go. It's been fun. Thank you all for watching. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. I'm exhausted. I'm feeling the effects. Just don't feel too good, man. But Shane, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me with you on the today's, and I hang out with the Comic Vet on Wednesday on his show and Show Us What You Got. I do my own thing on my channel as well. Yeah, just check it out. I post stuff all throughout the week. Just go to my channel if you don't mind. Check it out. And maybe one day I'll be as big as Izzy is.
Oh, like wide? All you gotta do is just have more chuletas, man. That's all you gotta do. Guys, it's been fun. As I said, I'm going to be doing the 10,000 subscriber giveaway where we're going to be giving away the Mega Man 3. More details are coming up shortly. Be on the lookout for some more content that's coming out. We did Friday's show, so I'm going to be doing the edits for that one to be coming out later this week. And another thing that I'm going to share with you guys now that I might as well take that opportunity to do that is I conducted an interview with Chris Claremont back in December, I want to say. I've been meaning to find time to post it. I think it's time to post it. What do you think? We did the creative spotlight. Now we could do the Chris Claremont interview. So
I
we
don't
got
want
to
to
hear
give you
some
too
really
much
cool stuff.
work, Izzy, but you could intersperse the interview with the creator spotlight to make one big interview.
That makes it long, dude. That's gonna be long. That'll be long. Not everybody likes watching videos that are that long, so that's why I cut them up. But be on the lookout for those. There's some other videos that are going to be coming out, popping up here and there. But I thank you for your time. Make sure you like, subscribe to videos. Here's another thing I'm going to ask you guys to do. If you be kind enough, share the videos. When you share it, it helps the algorithm know. It's like, hey, other people wants to share this stuff. So do me a favor, and if you ever get an opportunity, share some of these videos. You can share the creator spotlights. I think those are the ones that people like the most. Those are the ones. There's currently one on Todd McFarlane that's out right now that's getting some really good views. I think it's about to hit 1K very shortly.
Oh,
so
great.
Be on the lookout for that stuff. And thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna eat something and then I'm gonna go straight to bed because I'm not feeling too great. I think I need to go to bed. So I'll see you at the next time. And as always, thank you so much, and Excelsior.
I think this is it. I think you're about to go home. Okay. Thank you.
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 Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I never said thank you.
And you'll never have to.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I guess I'll see you.